Hello and welcome to Startup Chuck. This is episode 3 and it's all about patents. So I'd mentioned in previous episodes that you would have to do a patent search in order to determine whether or not you had freedom to operate for certain things that you wanted to create, or sell. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a patent attorney, I'm not an accountant, so take anything that I state with a grain of salt and reach out to a real patent attorney if you have any actual concerns. But with that in mind, I've done a lot of patent searches, and it is not something that you have to spend $4,000 on. You can do it 100% yourself, and you do not have to pay a patent search person, which in a lot of cases, let's say you do a patent search with a firm, they don't discover anything that's notable, and later on you get sued because another company who had something that was patented didn't get found by the patent search company. You infringed on their patent. Typically that patent search company is only liable for their fee and not necessarily will have legal recourse. Plus, you're a startup. Are you going to have enough money in order to actually pursue suing them? Probably not. So it's kind of the end of your company, or you have to work out a licensing deal at that point. And I'll go into a little bit more about how just because you find a patent out there doesn't mean you can't make the product you want. You can, in fact, typically easily license something from somebody because they want to make money. They want more people to adopt their technology, and usually they are willing to work with people who are willing to give them money, right? So now let's talk about our sponsor here for this episode. Once again, Chuck Bucket is our sponsor. They sell a hitch mount ski rack and bike rack, and you can easily swap out the bike rack and put the ski rack on depending on the season. So we want to thank them for sponsoring our video here, and we will, I guess, start getting into patent searching. So let's have some more examples. So we're going to have 2 examples for this episode. One is going to be, of course, the Banana Bopper kitchen gadget product, because this is going to be our design patent example. And then we have another product, which is my bike roller trainer I sold for a few years, Crown Roller. So Crown Roller is a bike roller trainer, and the drum on it is actually curved. You can see that right there. It's got a curved drum. Now you might ask yourself, what's the point of a curved drum? Well, it's like a belt sander. Belt sanders have a curved drum, and when they rotate, the curvature brings the belt to the center point of the drum. Same thing happens here. Your tire wants to climb to the highest point due to friction on that surface, and so it wants to climb to the center of the drum, and it took an old problem with bike trainers, which is they're very hard to balance on, and it made it slightly easier, right? A better mousetrap. And so that was the bike trainer that I had filed a patent on. So we're going to use my actual patent in the U.S. Patent Office. So let's go to the U.S. Patent Office here, and let's change the screen a bit so we just have that. And so search Google Patents. Now, you might say, why don't I go directly to the U.S. Patent Office? And you can go to USPTO, get to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and then you could go in here, patents, search for patents. But the reality is that the U.S. Patent Office has given Google access to all of the patents out there, and Google's search algorithm is much easier than the U.S. patent search tools. So again, you can go in here and you can go into like basic search and you can enter things, but it's far easier to go to Google Patents and then type in bicycle roller trainer crowned. Okay, so you'd put in your item that you think you might be interested in, right? And then this is the most basic way to search. you go through and you start looking for things that look similar to what you might be interested in. So, okay. Of course, mine's up top here, but let's find a little bit more. Let's go to the next page. Okay, is this something? Okay, so here's like a treadmill, right? So you go through and you're basically fastest way to do is look at images. Look at images, click through. Does it look like what I'm trying to patent? Nope, this is a treadmill. Okay, back to results. And so then you go through again. All right, so now let's say that we end up on, I'm gonna, for the sake of things here, bicycle roller trainer. So now let's say we find something that looks similar. All right, actually I accidentally clicked on mine again. No. Here we go. Roller trainer subassembly. Here's one right now. Does this look similar to what we want to sell? Well, kind of in a way. It's got two roller drums, and this is totally sideways now, but okay, it's similar but not exact. So first thing you can do is you could go to here, classifications. Classifications are kind of like the what file folder they're in, right? How they're classified. It's training appliances or apparatuses for special sports or for cycling, i.e. arrangements on or for real bicycles. Wow, that seems like it's a really great place to search, right? Probably anything that you want is going to be in this classification. So that's the number one way that you can get to good results when you're doing a patent search. Find something similar, go to classifications. So now here we're in classifications. So you can leave this classification now and you can just hit search, and now you're going to get 5,783 results. This is how many patents are in that classification. If the patent office did their job right, they're going to be, any patent you're interested in is going to be in this classification. Now, I'm only talking about US patents, but some of these will be world patents, and I'll explain some of those to you. So let's look at a roller trainer in here. There are a surplus of them. Auxiliary supporting device. Here's a great one. Sure, let's just take this. So you have something, you're looking at it. Oh, okay. First thing you want to look at, if you think that yours would infringe on it, if you found something that looks exactly like it, come over here and you look at whether or not it's expired. So this patent was applied in 2006 in the US and Taiwan. And then if you look at it, they never paid their fees. Around 2011 it was granted, and then they must not have made any money on it. Expired, fee related, meaning you have freedom to operate on this particular patent. Now, if you think this patent is very close to what you're looking at making, but not exact, then you want to know this. You want to write down the patent number. So you would, where is it? Basically download a PDF and save this number into a spreadsheet and keep a folder of all the patents you find that are relevant. This is what is called prior art. You want to keep track of all the patents that are relevant to what you are trying to patent. Because when they go to do the search in the patent office, they're going to want to know all of that. If you find something close, don't hide it. You want to know all of that, and then you also, if you do later on talk to an attorney, you can make them aware of like, this already existed, and so can we get any protection on something that's like this but slightly different. The other thing, and this is huge, patents are not copyrightable. You cannot copyright any of the text in a patent. So if you're trying to write a patent, you can literally copy, paste into Microsoft Word, and you can start editing and just changing what they had used to make it extremely similar for what you are trying to patent. So that's huge, right? Save yourself time and money. You don't need to have somebody draft up a patent for you if you have one that's already practically drafted for you. So I could literally, let's say my bike roller looked almost exactly like this but had a crowned wheel. I could say the invention relates to a device, etc. It looks like this, but having a crowned wheel, and then talk about why a crowned wheel is better, and talk about how previous devices such as this one right here didn't have a crown, and so it lacked like a certain amount of stability. And so I basically saved myself days of trying to be unique in writing something, and now have the perfect platform in which to show this is what's currently out there and this is how my product is better. Patents are made up of a few different things. So you have your diagrams, right? Like I showed here on the right. Anything that is in a claim should be in a diagram. So here are the claims. The only legal thing that matters is the claims in terms of what you are trying to say you have ownership of. So here, for example, an auxiliary supporting device for a bicycle, the supporting device comprising of A, B, and then these items. Well, so these are called inclusive claims, which means that, let's say your device does this, but it does not do that. Well, that's fine. Unless your item does both things, you're not infringing, right? So let's go to my patent now, bicycle roller trainer. Here we go. Here's my name. And if you look, expired, fee related. Well, turned out it was way too expensive to manufacture and my profit margins were too small. We can get into that in terms of pricing strategy and manufacturability another time. But great product. Customers loved it. Blew their mind. They didn't think it was going to work. Unfortunately, just something that was a very niche market, didn't really sell great, and had a very high scrap rate in manufacturing. So here's the product. These drawings are all just made up in Paint. I guess we'll get into all of this when I talk about how to file a patent later on. So let's ignore all of that for now. Let's talk about, again, patent searching. So we're searching claims. Bike roller trainer comprising of a plurality of rollers, etc. So this is the first claim, additional claims. So very simple. You look through backgrounds, and there's like a summary of the invention, descriptions of the drawings where it goes over the figures of each of the items. So detailed description of the invention. So there's some interesting things to note in the terms of how patents work. So let's say I wanted to make a crowned bike trainer like this, and somebody else had a patent for another roller trainer. And in their patent, for the claims never stated that the rollers could be crowned. The drawings never showed that the rollers could be crowned. So they wouldn't have any legal recourse stating that they have a patent on a roller that has crowned drums, correct? So I make this, they can't sue me. They can't claim that I infringed their patent. And a patent prevents you from being able to make, sell, transport, etc. Something that someone has the right to do so. But let's say in their abstract or in their descriptions somewhere or summary of their invention, they say, just in the text, the drums are round, but the drums could also be convex or concave in shape. Well, now I lose all patentability. Even though it's not in their claims, the fact that they had written in their abstract that it could be convex or could be concave, that makes it now public knowledge and therefore destroys the patentability of it. It used to be in the US that we were a first to invent system. And this is where everybody said, like, oh, if you invent something, put it in an envelope and date it and mail it to yourself, and that way it gets postmarked and it proves that you invented it. And this is also why for centuries, everybody had lab notebooks and they had people sign them as independent signers so that they had proof that they invented something. Well, that all changed during the Obama administration, and now we are our first to invent system, which is actually similar to what much of the world has. So if you have an idea and you want to patent it, you could quickly go on and patent it on the U.S. Patent Office, file a patent, and then protect it without even making the product. There's almost patents for time machines, basically, on the U.S. Patent Office. It used to be to actually build tiny models of whatever you wanted to patent, and the U.S. Patent Office in Washington, D.C. has all these tiny models on display, and they're really cool. Tiny, like you want to patent a gigantic steamship, you had to build a tiny model of it to have them be able to look at it. So, and anybody who is trained in the subject matter should be able to read your patent and then recreate it. So if I read a patent on software and I'm not a software person, I'm clearly not going to probably be able to recreate what they're trying to patent. But if I read this patent on this bike roller trainer and I'm an engineer, then I should be able to make this bike roller trainer, right? So so that's kind of the first few steps. First, find the similar items. Second, look immediately at the dates and see whether or not they're expired. You'll be surprised. You might be able to find what you were looking for, and it might have been patented 70 years ago, in which case you're fine. Patents are only good for a limited number of years. Typically 20. You have to continue to pay every single 4 or so years of fees in order to keep them going. So that's another thing that you may not have anticipated. And then, so if it's not making money, a lot of people just let them lapse. And then if you have a provisional patent, it's not public. So that's another good example. There might be a provisional patent on something you are interested in patenting, and or even marketing and selling, and you wouldn't know it because it is not public. Provisional patents are not public, and you would not be able to see that until finally it goes to be an application for a regular patent. This is utility patents, of course. And then that application becomes public once it gets viewed by the patent office for the first time. So it goes from a 1-year mark, and then finally you file it to be a full patent, and then the patent office eventually gets around to viewing it, and then when they pull it out of the folder for the first time and look at it, that's when it becomes public. And so that's caught some people off guard, where but that's an application. Then you just say, oh, well, they have an application, and I'll get into claims in a minute. What claims you read on applications are not close to being what they'll be when they're finally granted. Applications are super broad, and they're meant to be so they can try and capture as much as they can in terms of ownership. So back on patents, I showed you here basically, how to go through images and see whether or not something looks similar. Okay, let's say this is similar. Cool. I want to go and read the claims. Okay, the claims all seem pretty similar, but I now want to find other patents that are really close. Like this patent that I found, let's say, is the bee's knees. It is exactly close to what I'm trying to patent, minus a couple things. Right? So with that, you would then go down to the bottom to where it says patent citations. Patent citations is basically everything I told you to collect for patents that have similar numbers, keep in that folder, and then submit to the patent office later on. That's in patent citations. This is where a lot of patents are listed that are similar to what you are trying to patent. So here's a U.S. application on something that you mount a bike to and it rolls on the back, right? So we can go back to, back here. Didn't seem like that was quite close. So now we go to the next one. Oh, this is really close. Okay. This has got 2 wheels and it's got, or 2 drums and one in the front and a belt. This looks really close. Okay. So now you have something that you will then record, and you will then go through and see whether or not it's expired. Oh, 2034, it's not expired yet. Okay, interesting, right? Then you will go and look, is it in my country? Yes, it's in my country. Is there foreign ones? Yes. And then you'll go down and look at the claims, and if it's, again, not exact in wording, then you can get around it. So here's a good example. Let's go through an example here. A bicycle roller device having a front and a back and comprising of a frame, sure, a rear roller mounted assembly for 2 rear rollers. What if you had 1 rear roller in the back? Now it is fine. A front roller mounting assembly for a front roller. So again, if you just had 1 roller in the front and 1 roller in the back, you are now no longer violating this patent. Could you technically do that? Could you find a way to feasibly do that? That's how easy it is to get around patents. A central bridge assembly connecting said front roller mount to said rear roller mount assembly. Okay, so if you wanted to get rid of this middle section and just have 2 independent items that are not connected, then you could have your 2 rear rollers in the back, right? And again, you could get around this patent. That's how easy it is to get around patents. Now, you'd have to read the rest of these claims to ensure that there isn't something that said the bike roller trainer of claim 1 where there is no central bridge. And there might be something like that down here further on. But that's where you start. So you find another close one, you go all the way to the bottom, you basically start clicking on all of the other items, and eventually you'll start to notice that, okay, I clicked on this one and I come back over, and now if I was in guest mode and it kept an idea of what links I've clicked on, eventually you'll have clicked on all these links and they're all going to show up that they've been clicked on before, and then you'll click on all of these links and they're going to show up that they've been clicked on before. And then once you've exhausted every single avenue of every single bike trainer that looks similar to yours, then that's essentially your patent search. You have now, and this is what you get from a patent search company, they're going to give you a list of patents that are related to your item, and then they're going to basically, they don't know with the item you're trying to invent, they don't know whether or not you are going to be violating any of those claims, because you can't just immediately tell them necessarily what your product's going to be, because you may not know exactly what it's going to be, right? But let's just say it was, for me, a crowned bike roller trainer, and they could, in theory then, as an added fee, instead of just providing, well, here's all the bike roller trainers that mention crowned, they could go through all the claims and then say, here are the ones that talk about crowned rollers, and these do not mention what you want to do, and therefore you most likely will have freedom to operate. And so that is the basics of a utility patent search. So now let's go to a design patent. And you might ask, what's a design patent? Well, design patent is exactly that. It is the design of something, the aesthetics of it, its look and appearance. It cannot be anything having to do with the functionality of it. It is basically defended by, if you took people, common people, and you had them look at 2 of them, your design patent and another person's design patent. Let's say you do forks, dinner forks, right? Take 2 dinner forks, put them up side by side. Can they tell the artistic difference between them? Or do they look the same according to the common person? So if they look the same artistically, then you are in violation of a design patent. And you might say, okay, that's neat, but I'm not going to be an artist. Well, wrong. Design patents are the cheapest and possibly strongest patents you can get if you have something to protect. Case in point, here is a great example from Adafruit and her blog. And here is the Apple versus Samsung phone patent infringement case. On the left, you've got Apple's design patents. On the right, you've got Samsung's design patents, or the products they made. They may or may not have had a design patent. And to the common user, does this on the left look like this on the right? You could argue that maybe the buttons on the bottom don't match for the phone, but that tablet on the bottom looks pretty dang similar. And so here Apple, with an incredibly complex, highly patentable device for its technology, its strongest and most valuable patents are design patents. They got massive, massive payouts because somebody infringed on the look of what they had, which, to be fair, Apple's all about looking cool, right? And functioning well, but looking cool is a big part of it, right? It's sleek and shiny and people like that, so they're protecting their brand. But what people don't realize is design patents are cheap. Cheap, cheap, cheap. And they're also hard to search for, unfortunately. So really, design patents are best searched by doing image searches on Google, or doing word searches on Google for the product itself. And then also you can do some searches and specify design patents only. So this is banana slicer on here. But if you look, it's just aesthetic images like you see here, and then descriptions basically of a perspective view of the slicer showing, it shouldn't say our new design, that's pretty bad actually, showing the left side and the right side are identical, and the top and the bottom. But all the claims are always an ornamental design for the product as shown and described. Basically, you get no other claims on that. And this is why they're so powerful, because you cannot refute the fact that it looks like your product. And this is why so many people who get copycats in other countries like China manufacturing the same exact product that they are selling already, if you have a cheap design patent, you can stop them from selling their product. You can stop them from importing their product. You can tell Amazon to ban their product or ban that seller. You show them your design patent and you say, here is my design patent, and their product is the exact copy, and so stop them from selling it. Best scenario, you contact them and state, you are in violation of my design patent, and my royalty rate is 6%. Here's my fee schedule. I would like a check from you every single month, or I will prevent you from selling your product on Amazon. Now, if your product is, if you're losing face on your product because it's selling on Amazon alongside copycats, then maybe you'll try and stop them. But if they're selling a ton of them on top of, and they're a different price point, it might make sense to let them keep selling them and just harness all the copycats and just get mailbox money. Because mailbox money is the best money. You don't have to do anything. You could literally stop selling your product and possibly even make more money than you were making before, because they'll just keep selling it. Now, if you stop defending your patent, that's something that can be a problem legally. If you don't defend it for a number of years, you are knowingly not defending it, but you know that they're in violation, then you could in theory lose your protection. But there's a whole bunch of strategy there in terms of, if you find somebody infringing on your patent, do you try and stop them, or do you try and harness the momentum they already have? Because they might be much better marketers than you. They might have the resources to push that product far better than you are. Plus, if it's a new product in the market, they might be legitimizing it to a bunch of people, and then there's two tiers. There's the premium brand, and then there is your brand. And so your premium brand might dictate your higher price, and then that other one just fills in the rest of the gaps, which might be fine. So we're not going to talk about how to file a patent today, but we are going to talk just in general about how much they cost to file real fast, just so you have a general idea here. Oh, we'll also go into trade secrets, actually. So how much does it cost to file a patent? Well, if you do it yourself and you're a micro entity, there's all these different tiers. So there's the little guy, and then there is the big company, and then there is massive companies. The patent office is great. They tier pricing based on that. So if you're an independent inventor and you just want to file your first patent, design patents are cheap, like $300. The fees change over time, but roughly around there. Provisional patents for your utility patent, which gives you that 1-year window of safety, those are less than 100. I think the last one I did was 85, but that was a few years ago. And then when you go to file your utility patent, your actually application, and there's strategies on how much you pay and when. Your application to when you actually get granted and have to pay for your registration and like getting the forms and all done and getting your certificate, less than $2,000 for your patent all in. If you hire a patent attorney to do it all for you, you're looking at about 20 grand. If you are going to have somebody file your design patent for you, there's lots of services online that literally are doing just paperwork pushing, filling out the same info that you write to them, they're putting into the U.S. Patent Office. They are probably going to charge you $600, $1,000. So don't waste money on patent searches. Don't waste money having other people write your patents up for you, especially I'll get into how simple utility provisional patents are. They're very simple. They're very so much meant to be broad, and so you don't have to have a ton of wording in there. And then what I like to do is you take all the knowledge I just gave you guys, and then you write up your own draft of your patent and your own draft of your claims, and then you go to a patent attorney. And then this way, they don't spend 10 billable hours or 20 billable hours writing your patent for you. They go through and they make sure the claims are solid and that your drawings have all the information they need in them, or your sketches, and then they file it, which is they know how to file it quick. It's not going to cost them much more to file it than it will cost you to file it. So you're probably looking at maybe $3,000 for your filing, plus maybe another $1,000 or $2,000 for them to look through it. But it's much better to have $5,000 or $6,000 versus $20,000, and it's not that different than $3,000. And you get a lot more, legalese and checking in your patent filing than you would otherwise get writing it yourself. So let's see here. Before I do anything else, let me look through my list here. Trademark search. I can get into that quick, but we'll go more into that later. So trademark searches, so you go to USPTO trademark search. It's actually called tests. So let's say you're trying to start a cookie company and you don't actually want to patent anything. You're going to keep this is another thing, if you don't want to patent something, you can keep it as a trade secret. Coca-Cola's formula isn't patented. It's a trade secret. And so you save a bunch of money just by keeping things up here and not telling anybody them. So, but they need a logo, right? So you do a trademark search. And so you come to the USPTO and you make sure that you don't accidentally click on any sort of other websites that look like it, like trademark register FAQ, right? You don't want to get scammed. So make sure it's the uspto.gov and just click trademark search. And then you can go in here and you can type in Chuck Bucket and you can see what shows up. And then, so live means that it is still alive and legally binding, not canceled. They paid their fees and all that. Dead means that there used to be somebody who had that trademark and they no longer do. And so you can have a word mark, which is literally just the text, or you can have basically the image, we'll call it. So the word mark is the text in it. So chuck, wagon, delicatessen, and carry out. So those words in that order. And then you have what it is, so goods and services that they are applied to it. So let's say Snickers. I actually wrote a social media app called Snicker. Snicker and Snickers sound the same, right? Snickers is a candy bar. Snicker was a social media app that allowed you to share photos with friends that you had cropped down to a tiny area that made it look like it was, I don't know, weird, or maybe it was dirty and it wasn't, or maybe, you took a photo and there's a house on fire and there's like a little kid with a scared face in the corner, and you crop it down to the kid, and then you send that to their friend, and they'd see it and they'd click on the kid's face, and then it would expand and show you the whole thing. It was supposed to be kind of like a surprise photo thing. Either way, eventually Reddit implemented something similar to that. But so I had Snicker, the social media app. It's not a candy bar. You're totally free to have the same trademark. What you can't have is Snicker, the candy bar company, right? Or I guess it's Mars or whoever makes Snickers. But Snicker, the candy bar, and then Snicker, the gum, might be pretty similar. They're both foods. You could argue one's chocolate and one is, I don't know what you'd call gum, sugar. But they're arguably both sweets, and therefore you could have a patent infringement suit. And so a lot of times what you can do is, if companies that have money, they might have, okay, Snicker, the cat dating website. I think there was something like that. And you reach out to Snicker, the candy bar company, with a lawyer and say, hey, I would like to just get a letter from your attorney stating that we have no conflict of trademark, and then you just get that up front. And usually it won't cost you anything for them or a lawyer to send it to you, because they pay their lawyer and you just, get it in return. So you can do that if you're worried about possible conflicts. You can reach out to the company, to their lawyer, and get something in writing that states that there is no conflict of trademark perceived. And so that's basically trademark searching. There's not a whole lot to it. We'll get into how to file one another time, just like we'll get into how to file a patent another time. But big thing I wanted to bring up was making things public before you try and patent them. That is a big no-no within reason. So if you, let's say, invent a new bike roller trainer and you think it's great, right? If you haven't shown it on Instagram yet, if you haven't tried to sell it and sold it to anybody yet, you can still file a provisional patent as long as it's not public. And no one can prove that it was public. And then you can get 1 year of basically under the radar R&D work, where you can tinker on it and change things and reach out to customers and sell. Try and sell as many as you can. You should have your product ready to sell as soon as you get that provisional patent filed, if you can, because you get 1 year as cheap as possible to sell your product before you have to file a regular patent application and pay a lot more money. And so if you can do that, awesome. But now it's public. So now it starts a clock. You have 1 year from that public display to file your patent. To file your patent in the US and still be able to get coverage. So if it explodes and it takes off, you better make sure that you hit that filing date. And if it explodes and takes off, you probably want a lawyer to help you write it quicker and get it filed faster, because they're also going to keep track of the dates and be liable if they miss a filing date. And so with that, that's kind of the important of, don't make your item public. If you plan on getting a patent, don't make it public and then get around to filing a patent more than a year later. I, in fact, actually won't say what, but I was able to completely get around someone's patent because they reached out to me, said I violated their patent. I found prior knowledge on websites of the item that they patented 4 years prior to them patenting it, and then basically said, hey, I had a lawyer write up a nice letter to them in response to their lawyer's letter that stated, hey, your product was public knowledge prior to you filing, therefore your patent is invalid. And in fact, it was illegal for you to even file that if you had prior knowledge. And you're going to drop everything and leave us alone. And basically, what choice do they have, right? If they want to keep their patent, they keep their mouth shut. And if they don't, then, they are going to invalidate their patent, and then they lose that, and then they lose their protection from anyone else who didn't know like I did. So that's the importance of making sure that you file on time if you do want to indeed file a patent on what you're trying to protect. Another thing to note is that in the US, when it becomes public, you also have a clock starting in Europe on when you can file. So that is something that you need to pay attention to as well. And I'm not going to get into how long that is because it depends on every single country and it's different. But you can basically go reach out to an attorney and say, okay, if I made this public and I want to still file in Japan, would I have to do it within the first year? Would I have to do it right away? Do I get 2 years? Would my current US patent have an agreement with them where it gives me priority or not? And so you can work that out with that attorney and figure all those things out. You may find also it might not be worth it to patent in a foreign country because it's a lot of work to defend. Most patents are useless. They're useless because people get excited about ideas, and they put all their money and time into it, and they fail to look beyond what they envisioned to what people actually want. And you'll see this all the time. People will show you their invention and they think it's great. And you're like, well, maybe it should be a little bit bigger because I'm having a hard time holding this. And they'll dismiss that and say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, you just hold it like this. And the reality is that, yeah, the inventor knows how to hold it a certain way, but most people want that handle a little bigger. And so it's important to listen to people, which is why you want to get a lot of feedback from people during your prototyping phase and not patent a premature design that you then have to go back and then patent a new design that's updated, and you just wasted all that time and money on the previous one. So, all right, that's all I've got for this episode. I want to thank all you guys. I think that this has been really good. I want you to like and subscribe. Sorry this was a bit lengthy, but I just saved you $4,000 on a patent search by letting you do it yourself. You have a substantial, larger amount of knowledge, and the world's a little bit smaller. So take care, and I'll see you guys next episode.